Hey, good afternoon. The Design Review Board No.1 public meeting of September 18th, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on an item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided by the table at the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent hearings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 7 or 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date, depending on when the case is filed. The chairperson may reorder items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Board Member Aliano.
Here.
Board Member Ellis.
Present.
Board Member Insua.
Here.
Chairman Simonian.
Here.
Board Member Yu.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on September 11, 2008. There are no matters for oral communication. And in terms of staff announcements, we have several staff announcements. 3 items on today's agenda are being continued. This would be Design Review Board Case Number 1-PDR 2007-5059 for the property located at 1343 Highland Avenue. The case located at 1242 Winchester Avenue, that would be Design Review Board Case Number 1-PDR 2007-158. As well as the case located at 1953 Bellevue Drive, Design Review Board Case Number 1-PDR 2007-133A.
Billy, also,
yes.
The Winchester and the Bellevue cases will be continued to October 2nd, so they're continued to a date certain.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that clarification. And again, the projects located at 1242 Winchester Avenue and 1953 Bellevue Drive are continued to a date certain on October the 2nd. Okay. With that said, we've also had a request to reorder the items on the agenda, and the first case this evening will be case number 503 West Kenneth Road, case number 1-PDR 2008-030A.
Actually, we can start with the consent calendar.
Oh, thank you.
That's fine.
Consent. It's something new that we're still arranging. So we do have one item on today's consent calendar agenda. That would be the case number 1-PDR 2008-041-A. The address is 3240 Costera Avenue. The applicant is Mike Garagos, and the planner is Mr. Dennis Joe. Staff is available to answer any other questions. If you'd like to pull the matter off consent calendar, we would then open the matter up for public discussion.
Thank you. Do we have any board members that have specific concerns or would rather pull this and discuss this case, or should we just proceed on a consent matter?
I'm comfortable with it.
I don't think I was here for this one.
I don't think it's been here before.
Yeah, but I was not here for this case.
I don't think it's been here before.
No, I'm talking about the consent one.
No, this
Right.
is...
The consent. Yeah, I don't think we've seen it before.
Correct.
It's not been here.
This is a brand new case, and it's been placed on the consent calendar because staff feels that it can be approved
I see.
with the conditions noted in the staff report. If the board would like to then hear more about the case, would like clarification regarding certain matters, or would like to discuss the matter further, you're welcome to then pull it off the consent calendar.
Perhaps staff could give a quick 5-minute presentation on the main facts and points, and if there's any matters that pop up, and then at that point in time, we could consider.
At that
you do
point,
that, we should pull it off.
with this,
Right.
with that said, it would be pulled off the consent calendar.
Oh.
Otherwise, if the board is in agreement with staff's motion and considerations, then essentially you would just make the motion to approve
I'm
with staff
comfortable
recommendations.
with the file.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar. A second.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay, you have a motion made by Board Member Ellis, and that was the second by Board Member Insua. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Ellis?
Yes.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yep.
Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
The motion to approve as suggested by staff?
I, of course, do have one quick note. It
Yes.
says in the draft record of decision that staff recommends approval of a proposed project with conditions as and there are no conditions listed anywhere.
There are no conditions.
So that was a typo that, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
And so essentially, if you don't mind, Dennis, reading into the record as well, the staff analysis portion of the project.
Based upon above analysis, staff recommends approval of proposed project. As it appears consistent with the single-family neighborhood analysis and guidelines in site planning, design, massing, and scale, as noted below in the draft record of decision. The proposed house lots coverage, parking, walls, landscaping design appears to be consistent and compatible to the project site and neighborhood context. The building massing and scale were addressed in similar manner as the existing house. The existing hip roof is used consistently throughout, which gives the appearance of a smaller building. The proposed addition slightly increases the square footage of the livable area and does not appear to be overly excessive or large. The proposed remodel and addition to the existing house appears to be consistent in overall architectural style, texture, materials, with the majority of the house, with the home in the neighborhood and the design guidelines.
Okay. All right. So that matter has been approved 5-0. We then go on to the regular agenda, starting with case number 1-PDR 2000, and again, this would be out of order, 1-PDR 2008-030-A, project located at 503 West Kenneth Road, and the applicant is R. Jagosian.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The next item before you is design review, case number 2008-030-A. It's a final review of a proposal to construct a 305-square-foot addition to an existing single-family house, a new two-car attached garage, and facade changes to the house. The project is located at 503 West Kenneth Road in the R1 district. Let me go over with you what's on the board. You're looking at these two columns. This is the site plan. Kenneth Road is here, Pacific is here, the house is here, and the conversion addition will take place here with the new garage here. Elevations are here. This is the front elevation along Kenneth. This is the elevation along Pacific. Floor plans are here and here, first floor, second floor, and then landscape plans. And someone took, there were material plans here. Okay. And pictures.
Do we have the existing footprint of the building as it currently sits?
The existing footprint is very similar. You can see it best in the large floor plan. This dotted line here is the existing, and what they're doing is converting this existing garage into livable floor area. And then this is a new garage. A portion of it here is the existing garage. So this is new, and this is converted from garages.
Do we have any questions for staff?
Actually, I just got a quick. The existing two-car garage located in the eastern part of the site will be converted into the additional living space proposed, and the new garage is proposed behind it. Orientation of the garage will change, but access to it will be maintained off of Pacific Avenue. A new balcony is proposed above the converted garage. The existing house is a colonial revival style of architecture. The project also includes a facade change to a more Mediterranean style. I've got a couple clarifications on the staff report. The first one is the proposal is on the eastern part of the residence, not the western. There are several places where the addition is in the western part of the house is made in the staff report. It really should have been the eastern. The second clarification, the house is currently a two-story house, not a one-story house. And then finally, the windows are proposed to be fiberglass as documented on the posted plans. Staff recommends approval of the project with the following conditions. The first condition is the applicant shall use precast for all windows surrounds, complete with dimensions and windows detailed specified on the plans. And the second one, the applicant uses a rectangular-shaped garage door to be consistent with the proposed design. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you know the windows, existing windows, they have this little detail on it, like a little keystone. Do you know if that's an existing condition or not?
Are you looking at a picture of
That's all
the...
brand new. It's a wood, if I remember, I know the house because I go up the street every day. No, it's like a wood clapboard kind of house.
It's more like there's a picture of the house,
Existing windows are just old aluminum.
yeah, of the existing house.
So I have a question for you. This application is for this addition at the garage? Is that all that we're here to look at?
It's for the conversion of the existing garage to floor area, for the new garage, the new proposed garage, and for the facade change.
And for a new, complete redesign of the exterior from...
Okay,
Right.
Now, it appears that construction's ongoing already. Is this a project that was stopped because it hadn't gone through DRB? Or, I mean, it appeared when I was there that the front door looks different than, it looks more like the plan, or...
Well, I know that, I drive up the street every day to get home. I know that they've been doing a lot of work on it for the last 6 months or so. I don't know what extent or what trigger or what percent.
Where we are, okay.
Yeah, that probably direct to the architect.
Okay.
Yeah, because that window's now cut open like a door.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been a lot of work.
You're right. So that's kind of what I was wondering. When you mentioned the precast trim, you're talking...
Around the windows.
But as the precast, in your mind, is they're either rock or they're concrete product, not the styrofoam?
Correct.
Thank you. And then I guess one last question. I noticed at one point it says wood windows, in another place it says aluminum-clad windows.
Right.
You just mentioned fiberglass windows.
Right, that was the clarification.
Okay.
The fiberglass windows, as documented on the plans, are what they're proposing.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Any more questions for staff? No. Very good. I have two cards. One is a neighbor and one is an owner, and the architect, Mr. Gagosian, I don't have a card from you. So if you would please approach the podium.
Yes, actually, there was one submitted, but it might have been...
I don't believe he's an architect either.
misplaced in
Okay. So if the designer, if you would please come up to the podium if you would like to present on behalf of the applicant, and then you could fill out a card afterwards.
Actually, I'm the applicant and I'm the designer. Good evening. My name is Rafi Gagosian. My address is 3018 Honolulu Avenue, Glendale, 91214. Okay, let me give you some clarification, especially to Mr.
Thank you.
Bryan. there is a construction going on right now, but we have a permit for that one, which is at the rear of the house. And plus, even though in the report it says that swimming pool under separate permit, we pulled the permit, and the swimming pool is under construction. It's almost done. That's why you see all the mess around it. So we have a permit for both, for the house, at the rear of the house, and the swimming pool. So actually, right now is under the construction.
Now, how about the front doors and the changes that appeared to be on the front windows and doors and such?
We haven't touched it yet. So once we, the windows and the doors up front, when you look at it to the second floor, there's no balcony right now. So we're proposing a balcony also to the second floor.
What's the extent of the scope of the
Facing
permit?
canopy.
What's the extent of the permit work that you have permit for?
We applied for like a converting portion of the existing garage into habitable area, and converting the rest of the parking area into a new two-car garage, and then facade change.
What permits do you have right now that you have that you're working against?
Which at the rear of the house.
Which is, again, what areas again?
Specifically, you said the pool,
Yes.
the pool area,
And a bathroom addition.
bathroom addition on the
Yes.
first floor, second
No,
floor?
second floor.
Is there any other permits that are currently out on the property?
No.
So the only two permits that have been issued is for the pool and the bathroom?
Yes.
Excuse me, is the bathroom remodel or addition to the?
Addition.
So when we look at sheet A3 on your drawing, which is right here, this is the second floor.
Yes, sir.
Can you, does this show?
Can I approach and show it to you?
What is the pointer?
Down on my end.
I think over,
Is it hiding over that way?
This is the portion
Here it
we
is.
have a permit.
So this is an addition?
Yes, sir.
So this area
Yes.
is all,
Yeah, it's a flat roof right now. It used to be flat.
So you got that approved without DRB because it's under...
At the rear, and it's not visible from
So
anywhere.
it's this area right in here, this is all new addition,
Yes.
and balcony, and then this addition here.
Okay. So right now, this is an existing bedroom, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because there's an opening right now here.
We asking for an opening to go into the deck area.
It's open right now, so...
It's-
What happened there?
Actually, maybe they're preparing it. I don't know.
This opening is there now. Looks like they took away a larger opening here, and they have it framed up, they have insulation shown on the exterior.
Oh, we at the first permit that we applied for it, for this bathroom addition, we asked if we can close the window at this area.
And the
Because we
permit-
do, yes,
and it's part of that permit?
yes, sir.
But that's visible, though, from the street.
That's where I saw it from, the street.
Mr. Gagosian, what I think would be very helpful for this board is if you would take a few minutes, start on the big spill, introducing the project, as far as what's been done, what are the permits that have been issued, what work has been completed or started, and I believe you might be able to answer some of these questions, but there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of questions that are going to come up. So you might as well just kind of answer them and try to guide us through the history and what has happened. So if you would, maybe go to the podium and or if you're more comfortable up here with the drawings, walk us through.
See, actually, I'm more comfortable here so that I
By all
can show
means.
it to you right on the plan. It's
I think you give them the pointer. I think it's right around the corner. Here. Excellent.
We, at the first permit, we applied for interior remodeling and the addition. And right here, this is going to be like, right now you don't see it because we have walls we're removing, but I'm not showing it on this one because we have it already. That's the reason I'm not showing it. So this is, we're turning into a new kitchen area. And there, at this moment, before the permit, there was a window over here at the lower level, first floor. So we're closing that window because of the kitchen issue. That's, and then we're converting this area into a powder room, which is this one.
What I'm trying to help you in this case, we're not interested in the minute details of the interior, the big
Okay.
picture. As far as Mr. Yu is asking, there's openings in the facade right now, and some others are pointing towards some major construction going on the house. So the big picture, please.
The opening,
Don't dwell on the
yeah,
details.
the openings are the existing windows that most probably they removed it. They haven't done any framing in that area, so
So the windows have just been removed.
just remove, that's it. That's why it's open. Once we put the permit, new framing is going to be on those areas so that the new window location, and because we have doors at the second floor, so these are going to be a new frame by this.
So that's why
The
there's
only
openings.
openings are the existing windows that being removed.
But you need to have a permit to do that.
Unfortunately,
So the windows have been removed, but no additions or demolition has taken place on the building, just the windows have
No.
been taken place, and there's a pool that's going in. At this
Yes.
point in time, what you're asking for is change in the facades and the style of the building, and also an addition.
Well, here's what we got the permits for from the record. We have a permit for this addition here. We have a permit for 2 decks, and we have a permit for a kitchen remodel here. That's the permit.
Yes.
Because you can see here.
And everything that's been applied, or a permit has been issued for, has been incorporated into these drawings that
Yes,
we're
sir.
looking at.
yes.
So they are considered as existing because they in fact are.
Do we have further questions for the designer, or applicant, I guess in this case? Who was the designer?
Is there any reason that this is and maybe this is an unfair question, I don't know, I'm just I'm wondering, the project seems to be happening I'm changing a light bulb, so but is there a reason that it got all started to this point in little bits, and now all of a sudden we're looking at it as a whole new thing, or?
The whole idea from the beginning, we applied for that minor addition at the rear and so forth. And then I suggested to the owner that once we take this permit, meantime, we apply for the design review board approval for the project. So, but unfortunately, it took so long. I mean, it took almost 4.5 months from the day we submitted.
To get to today, to here?
Today, yes.
Right.
So that's the whole, the owner is frustrated, they can't wait. The contractor is frustrated.
But, I guess, because I asked that question, I mean, we see these projects come in, and nobody's done anything until they've gotten approval to do anything, and that's kind of why I'm wondering, it seems, you guys are quite a ways down the path, and
Yeah,
where,
but they have a reason also, so they want to finish it as soon as they
Sure.
can, because the lady is expecting a baby, so that's another reason they want to push
Yeah,
it.
I imagine so. All right.
I had a question. This bathroom renovation that you did, I realize why you didn't come to board, but what does it look like from the outside? I mean, is it treated with this plaster, or does it have the original siding that's on the house right now? How is it enclosed? I mean, what's the skin?
The skin is right now with rough stucco.
I see. So it's rough stucco butting against.
Yes, yes.
See, well, you can see that they built it right over here, because you can see the fireplace. So the old house ends here,
Right, but
And then, so this is just scratch
It's a rough
coat or
stucco,
brown
yeah,
coat?
brown color.
Brown coat of the stucco, okay.
oh, because this has stuff on this.
Yes.
Mr. Gordon, is the envelope of the building, the walls, are they being altered from the current existing home that is there right now. What you're proposing, except for that addition around the garage,
Yes.
this front side, are you doing any work here?
Only the entryway, because of the, this portion we propose.
And then these are balconies?
Those are new,
Balconies, yes.
right? Those are
Okay.
new.
But this
The
wall
The steps are new, the
is-
bottom,
yeah.
the coins, the bottom trim. It's going to be...
There are a step, we're changing the style of it, that's, right now there is a step. And then one other thing, when you brought the step issue, so we're recommending, there's a steps go up this way right now, right at the corner. So we're proposing in this way, straight to the house.
Is there a guardrail on this side? Here? Anything there? Next to the slope of the roof?
At the roof, no.
You can just kind of walk up to the roof?
Yes.
That's this wall here, right?
Yeah, so there's nothing there on the behind it?
No, nothing there at the back.
It's on the other side.
And by the way,
Behind it, you could just walk up to the roof?
yes,
I don't know.
if that is like a kind of a condition to put the railing there, I have no problem.
Well, I think it's more of a safety thing.
Probably something like building and safety.
Yeah. Kid runs around.
Do we have any further questions?
I wanted to ask you, what motivated you to change the style?
Change the style, there was the owner preference to have a Mediterranean.
Now, we don't have a material board, do we?
The material board was up there.
It's here, it's with the pictures then. There was some color, is there a couple extra sheets stuck with that? Yeah.
So these are S styles? And then, how about these windows? How are these windows going to see this? Is supposed to be some kind of a...
We got Milgard vinyl clad windows.
Where's the...
Actually, they're fiberglass.
Fiberglass. Surround, there's no note on
The
this.
surrounding is going to be
Precast.
Okay, but where's the pre-sample?
No, but here it says
Precast
window, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're, actually, for clarification, we staff condition that to precast, and the applicants are fine with that.
Okay, but so the wood is not...
Yeah, so let's change it on there.
Yes, so just to clarify, that's the suggestion from staff, and the board can take it where you like it.
Yeah, all the windows have been replaced by the mill guard?
Yeah.
Right now you have steel windows, right?
Yes. And by the way, I did a one. I did this.
You're going to have to speak into the microphone, but you could hand it to us.
I did that drawing just to show you the massing of the house. I'm sure there are some mistakes on it. I apologize for that one. And one other thing I want to mention it, just like for clarification. In the report, it says that we're adding 305 square feet plus 470 square feet of a new two-car garage. As a mass, if I calculate it, I'm only adding 285 square feet to the massing of the existing house, first floor area.
Because the existing garage is being converted.
Yes, and this existing garage, portion of existing garage we're converting into habitable room, and portion of the rest of the garage is combining it with the new two-car garage.
Are you modifying the existing roof line of the main house?
No. This two-story portion is exactly the same. It's going to stay exactly the same, except the addition portion.
Do we have any more questions for the applicant? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Grigor Chilian. Very good. Who's declining to speak because the applicant has already pointed out all the main factors. The last card I have on this case is a neighbor, Anna Abeshian. Please, if you would like to comment on this case, if you would approach the podium and share your thoughts.
There should be several other cards.
Unless they're mixed in with the other ones.
They might be, because
There might be,
actually,
okay, yeah, you are correct.
there are quite a number of it, and I believe Mr. Gagosian's card might be
Yeah.
among them.
I don't know. Does Anna Abeshian like to speak?
I'm sorry. You know,
Sure.
the thing is that if your son is speaking on behalf of you, he would need to fill out a card.
So he could come up to the podium.
Correct.
And you could speak, and then afterwards, if you would just fill out a card and give it to me. And if you would just state your name for the record.
So,
Are you going to translate for her, or?
Oh, is this translation?
Yeah.
Oh, if this is translation,
Okay.
then
I
this is
see.
completely different. Okay.
So the speaker is Anna Abeshian, and the son, who's going to state his name, is going to translate on behalf. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak into the microphone, though.
Hi, my name is Anjanik Abeshin. I'm the son. So,
Actually, you need to speak into the mic too, ma'am. Speak into the mic, and then your son can translate.
Correct.
Իրենք մեր նոր հարևաններն են եւ մենք շատ ուրախ ենք իրենց համար, որտեվ տունը վերանորոգվեց, բավական լավ տեսք վստահ եմ, որ պետք է արդեն ստանա, երևում արտաքին տեսքից եւ շատ ուրախ ենք, որտեվ մինչեւ վերանորոգվելը եւ այս աշխատանքները տունը շատ տգեղ էր երևում, վերածվել էր կարծես ջանգլի եւ շատ մեր տեսադաշտը տգեղ էր։ Իսկ հիմա արդեն երևում է իրեն հեռանկարը, որ շատ գեղեցիկ պետք է լինի եւ շատ ուրախ ենք իրենց համար, որ շատ լավ view ենք ունենալու։
alright, so basically, everything they've done, we've known about it, and we're okay with it. I mean, if you saw the house before, like, it looked really bad, so it, like, anyone who passed by, it looked like a jungle, basically. Right now, it's, like, already looking beautiful, and I'm sure when it finishes, it's gonna look 10 times better than it is, and I'm sure nobody's gonna, we're okay with everything that's going on, so we're in favor of the project.
Very good. Thank you.
And can I ask what your address is, or where you live?
500 West Kennett Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Karina Manukian.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Karina Manukian, and I reside at 1452 Doherty Drive. It's just a couple of houses away from Kenneth and Pacific. I just wanted to come up here just to say that I've been walking past that house 4 years in a row, and it did look horrible. I was actually trying to avoid to walk on the same side of the house because it was kind of creepy looking, so I would walk across the street. I'm definitely in favor of the project, and I think this is going to be a great improvement for the neighborhood, make the neighborhood safe looking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker is Anita Assyrian.
Hi, my name is Anita Assyrian. I'm going to be living in the property. I'm one of the main reasons we're actually rushing and doing everything because I'm expecting in 2 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It won't be ready.
I know, but it's been so frustrating. It's been such a long road, I know. I didn't realize that in the beginning, you know. I just wanted to clarify one thing. The reason we initially decided to add the addition to the downstairs for the bedroom is because my father-in-law is on a wheelchair, and he wants to frequently visit us, and we don't have any room downstairs for him. to make it convenient for him. So that was one of the main reasons that we decided to add the bedroom downstairs. Also, another reason, along with all the stress that we've been encountering, a couple of days ago, we also experienced, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it burglary at the property. 5 a.m. in the morning, someone actually broke in through the garage and stole my washer and dryer. So, yeah, and I wasn't expecting that in the neighborhood because, you know,
Item to steal.
yeah, that's actually another reason we want to hurry up with the construction because I'm in school, I have a toddler, I can't be constantly neighboring around around the area to make sure everything's safe. So.
Are you living in the house while it's undergoing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I couldn't.
Yeah,
It's already stressful enough. Any questions?
Did you have any comments based on some of the earlier questions that came up that?
I'm trying to remember what questions. I've been more nervous about this meeting than I was actually during my first labor, so I'm trying to remember. Were there any questions maybe you would...
If you had any general thoughts based on the earlier conversation.
I know someone asked regarding why we were changing the style of the house. The style of the house actually looks colonial from the front, and we're not sure what it looks like from the back. So that's why we were trying to change it into Mediterranean. And I really don't have any background in architecture to actually know anything about styles, but when we were looking at the house, I started researching about colonial style houses. And there are a lot of colonial style houses that I did see during my research, but it wasn't something that interests me. So that's mainly why we're changing it to Mediterranean, with a twist of Spanish, I guess. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Artin Sarkisian.
Hi, my name is Artin Sarkisian. I basically live 2 houses away from this property at 1560 North Pacific. My house currently is a Mediterranean house, and I think this will liven up the area. The house was an old house before, and what they're doing is just going to be great, especially it's a corner house. Driving up, seeing that corner house, it's going to be great. So I approve. Well, I can't approve, but I'm for the project. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Now I don't have any other cards, so are there any speakers in the audience that are interested in opining on this case? Okay. So with that, I guess the public portion is closed unless Mr. Gagosian wants to have some last words. Okay. Good. Well, Mr. Ellis, do you want to start this one?
Look at that.
Look on the other side. Look busy. Rather I start on the other side?
You know what? I don't care. No, I'll start. All right. I can support the project. I'm again, my Dave Weaver comment. I'm not the architect on this panel, but I mean the fact that they're improving the house based on what it's like, that the neighbors around it are happy with those changes. I'm a little concerned that, of course, as our questions flowed on, they got a little ahead of the cart got a little ahead of the horse with getting the permits and the plans through the city system before the construction was started. But obviously, they're feeling the pain of that, and they'll never do it again. I want to support the staff on the comments on the surrounds and things are cast rather than styrofoam, and then fiberglass.
Well, they weren't proposed foam. It was wood as shown on the drawings or as conditioned
as
precast. Right. I don't know that staff has a strong.
Just to clarify, my vague recollection is that previously it was proposed as foam, and that's why we had made the condition to change that to precast. Staff does not would not like to take a position on which is better, the precast or the wood, if the board so chooses to maintain the wood
I couldn't
as
support
proposed.
Foam.
Neither could we.
Thank you. Yeah. Talk to Home Depot. See if you can get it out of Home Depot. All right. I think those are my only comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Yu?
I don't really have a problem with the proposed addition in the garage. I think it's a good comment to make the garage door sort of the same shape as the rest of the windows and doors. I think the precast would make more sense because, I mean, they're going to be using some of that on the corners anyway. Instead of going with the just wood and then whatever they're going to use in the corner. Windows, it's fine. Yeah, the only concern that I had was when you go out there and then you see sort of with all this construction going on and then you ask the question of what things are approved and you get sort of this vague answer that doesn't match what's out there. But hopefully whoever's inspecting the thing can take care of that. But on the things that are on here on this board, I'm okay with, and I'd be okay with approving, so.
Thank you, Mr. Yu. Mr. Insua?
Sure. I know what it is to have a wife pregnant and doing remodel. I've been doing it perpetually for 22 years, and she's put up with me. I've had 3 daughters, and we've always been doing remodeling. And I have an advantage as an architect and a builder. I fib, and she has to believe me when we're going to get it finished. I know this corner well. I've been seeing it for many, many years. I grew up in the area, and I always thought this house had so much possibilities, but it did look like a jungle, especially in the last 8 to 10 years. I never knew why, because previously, over the years, it was, it was a signature corner, it was a banner corner, and it was well maintained, and there must have been obviously something that changed with the people who had owned it. And all my comments are really, as I said before, is to be constructive. I hope it's taken that way. I don't like the design at all. I think it's a poor design. And I hate to say it, I think it's a poor design. I made some notes here. Just because you add Spanish tile roof, remove the wood siding or whatever it is and add stucco, and stick coins on the outside, and do the surrounds, and call it a Mediterranean. I think there's more to Mediterranean design or any design than doing that. I think this house falls way short of a well-executed Mediterranean design. It's a bad design in my opinion. And it's such a beautiful corner, I would like to see something a lot better than this design. I could be specific, but that's what I'm here for, I guess. First of all, the Milgard sample, we have a Marvin sample, so we really don't know what the Milgard sample is with respect to the style of the wood, the thickness, the proportion, and all those things we look at to really have good design. Years and years ago, we went on a tour, maybe Avilia can remember, and we remembered that tour, and some of the key elements of the tour was the windows and the proportion and the styles. You know, sometimes the other elements that you thought were more important turned out to be not as important. Those little things are important, and when you put them all together, create really a style that you're looking for. This house potentially has problems, and people are free to change the designs of a house. Matter of fact, a couple houses towards Kenneth, an architect, Architectenica, I think the guy is from his company, did a complete redesign on a home of this style, and I think it turned out wonderfully. There was arches, there was depth, there was window proportions, there was, and probably a lot of us have seen it. You've probably seen the house, the one with the purple wall. I think that used to be your design.
It's east of here.
Yeah, east of,
One
yeah.
block
And
east.
I couldn't imagine someone doing such a thing with that existing house, but there's something about that works well. This one, again, falls short. Just because you add coins, it's not Mediterranean necessarily. Matter of fact, I think coins are more French provincial, but you can do it, okay. The proportions here, you remove the windows from across the top here, now you add this. Well, personally, I don't think there's a lot of design here. This looks to me like an add-on. Look at the side, an add-on. The steps, an add-on. I don't like that. It's not whether I like it, I don't think it's appropriate to this design. You turn the corner, and this doesn't look very Mediterranean. I don't know. Does the Mediterranean have, what's this, a vent, a hood? You see better executed design. We have a couple today. You see better executed design. What's the thickness of this surround? Well, if it was bigger or smaller, it's meaningful. We have a little keystone on top. Look at the size of that. I hate to be hard, believe me, I promise, but this is such a beautiful corner, such an important corner. I remember when they changed the house across the street 30 years ago to a prairie style with a flag, the Arizona flag. I know this neighborhood. I live 5 blocks away. This is not a well-executed Mediterranean home. This doesn't work. The surrounds doesn't work. The bottom, what is this trimming down here? We don't know. The coins don't work for me. And again, just because you do this, do the plaster, and do this, doesn't mean it's an executed home of Mediterranean. We've seen a lot of designs here that when you see the Mediterranean, it makes sense. This one, for me, falls short. And I think this house and these people deserve, and this corner deserves a better executed home. So I made a bunch of notes, but in specific areas, but those are the areas that I'm looking at.
I think it's my turn. I like to be constructive as well. I don't have any issues with the mass of the building. I think, most of it is already there. There was some addition in the back where this new bathroom was built. I probably would have done, the middle gable, I would not have done that, make these 3 little gables. So in terms of massing, that's one place where I would probably focus on. But, I have to agree with Mr. Insua. I think this project can be a lot better than it is. And I think it can be done, and without causing undue stress, to the family, to the applicant. I think it's doable. It just requires, a little bit more finessing and trying to get to understand what this building is trying to be. It's really a collage of things. There's, just to be specific, the amount of detail on the door so intense that it sort of throws everything off, and it's the kind of detail that goes with nothing, has nothing to do with the rest of the house. I agree with this entryway. This sort of stair-stepping, that's sort of, a postmodern motif that's just, stuck on. And the ones I object to the most are sort of the surrounds. The idea that just by putting a surround, you get a better window, a better looking window. I disagree with that. Whether it's wood or precast, I don't really go for that. And lastly, these coins at the corners, they have nothing to do with what you're trying to achieve here. Simplicity would be the best approach. So I would say if you take the coins off, and if you take the surrounds around the windows, and if you work on that entry and you create a well-scaled entry with some detail, you downplay the door with all this glazing and ironwork and give it more of a Mediterranean appeal. You deal with the roof and do a really good quality roof instead of an S-shaped tile. Looks like the garage door is going to be an attractive wood door. No issue there. And then you start working with that middle gable that I was talking about earlier. And I would also do a little more work on the actual windows. The windows with no lights on a style like this, it will look really strange. It looks really strange. It has a modern feel, and it's not quite, it's not quite Mediterranean. If you want to do something more modern Mediterranean, then you got to get rid of all these motifs that sort of imply style, Spanish style or anything that references that. You could get a style that's sort of designed that's more straightforward. It's really more about plaster, nice plaster, good-looking windows, nice profiles on the windows and the sash, good ironwork on the railing, and it's really more about the craftsmanship of the materials rather than a collage of motifs. And so I think this project needs stripping down rather than adding onto, and then, as I said, really focus on the details, the materials. In other words, if you take the windows and say you do a divided light window, if you want something more Mediterranean, more traditional Mediterranean, I think we get that term confused all the time. I think what you're trying to achieve is something that's more Spanish looking. Then you start dealing with the windows. I mean, there's no such windows like that, or doors in a Spanish-style house. There's no double-hung windows in a Spanish. Double-hung window is very much an American type of window. It's nothing to do with that style. I mean, I would do casement windows if you want to do something more original. These doors that do imply that. It's sort of like a casement window, except it happens to be a door. This could be a casement window as well. But you could introduce lights. I hate to mark on your drawing, but you could introduce lights across to start to give you the character of a more of a Spanish style window. This to me implies either casement or a slider. There's no such thing as sliders in a Spanish style house. It doesn't make any sense. If you want to stylize the house, you're going to be true to the style. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it at all. I would just do something more contemporary. So the fenestration needs work. The Marvin is a good quality window, but I'm not quite sure.
It's Milgard, though.
I thought it said Marvin.
Well, it says Marvin, but the drawings say Milgard.
Yeah, Milgard is not really a good high-quality window. I would say that for a house like this, you want to get a window that has a really great profile, strong, nice wide sash for the window frames and all that. I'm not convinced, especially being in a corner building, that you see this building all the way around. It's a shame. I think the owners of this house will be happier in the end, even though it seems hard right now. In the end, I think they'd be happier with trying to come up with a version of this that's more refined and more sensitive to all these things that we talked about. I'm not asking really to change the footprint of the building. I'm not asking to change roof lines, perhaps just that little gable like I mentioned before. But other than that, I think it's really a matter of how you treat the surface and how you treat the windows and how you treat these add-on pieces that Mr. Ensor talked about, the entry porch, portico, and the stairs. But for me, for sure, the coins have to go and the window surrounds have to go, and that's a starting point. And then you could do a really nice, bullnose window. The window surround, the opening could have a bullnose on it, and the window could be sliced, recessed, starts to imply a richness in the plaster. So you really don't have to do a lot of gymnastics to make this building look great. You could even consider maybe doing a bell course of some sort. Maybe there is a line here, but then it's not carried, and that could be a nice trim that you could use. I don't have any issues with that. I think this is a nice piece. To do a door with a balcony, I think is quite nice. I'm not sure. I don't know about this relationship. Maybe those need to go and this needs to get wider.
Well, one of the interesting things about the balcony is that you look at the ornate detail here, the wrought iron here, and then you got these little thin sticks.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be unlikely that you can get this projection with that narrow depth. I mean, it's like a 2x6 depth. So that's really going to be deeper. Well, if it's deeper, boy, you got great opportunities. If it's going to be deeper, imagine, you see these things, especially since it's semicircle. Imagine like a pedestal under there. These are these little refinements that you can do that really, you're going to have a gorgeous home. You deserve a gorgeous home where you are. You deserve it. It's a great, great corner. And this falls short, in my opinion, of what it could look like. Significantly short.
Thank you for summing up.
I'm sorry. No, I just saw, you see something and you go, boy, what an opportunity. What an opportunity.
Sit down then.
No, you're finished.
Yeah, no, I was just...
Well, I must say, I agree with both sides of both my right side and my left side on this issue. I think what we have here is a design that's trying to go Mediterranean, but then has some contemporary aspects to it, the windows and so forth, as Mr. Aliano described. And I think this home could very easily get a few items stripped away and go back a couple more steps just towards more of a simpler approach to really be more of a contemporary Mediterranean, if that's the way you want to go, or even maybe more of a contemporary style of architecture. The coins, these are not major things. The coins at the corners could be easily removed. The window surrounds, it's a matter of a detail, of coming up with a detail of what exactly that's going to look like so the board understands. The main issue I have is really the entryway. The entryway kind of pops out, but again, it's not a very difficult item for the applicant perhaps to work with staff with. And so what I'd like to, discuss with my colleagues here is if we are comfortable providing staff some direction on this and having the applicant work with the staff, or have them come back with most of the comments that we've discussed today. What do you think? And I'm leaning towards maybe the applicant working directly with staff and just simplifying this design. I think you're trying to go down the Mediterranean path, so you're just putting stuff on this building, but it's the wrong way to go. Just remove the coins, simplify your entryway, perhaps with some thicker columns and so forth, and try to go down more of a contemporary lane. So with that, I think I would want to maybe discuss, if it's possible, coming up with some conditions for the applicant to work with staff on this. Because I think in this specific case, it might be more worthwhile of a focused interaction between staff and the designer, because we've gone through this before in other hearings where we make comments and then the design comes back and nothing has changed. And so those are my thoughts on this. And I think
Go ahead.
Ms. Reich had a comment, and then Mr. Aliano.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Simonian. We have worked with the applicant up to this point, and the design that you see in front of you is more simplified than the original design. So I think that if we do have some very specific conditions, and I'm prepared to read back some of the conditions that, or comments that we've heard that could become conditions, that would, I think, be helpful to the applicant. And rather than giving the applicant a choice between a contemporary design or a Mediterranean design, which might be a difficult path for staff and the applicant to work together on, I think if there is some very specific direction that the applicant can design to, that would be very helpful to move the project forward. And if you'd like, I can read back what we've heard so far.
Mr. Aliano?
Yeah, I think, we were very specific on what needs to be removed. I think, students were as well. Once you remove that, it's going to look different. You remove the coins and the surrounds. I like the applicant to be able to work with staff to see if they can do these things, remove and see what it looks like. And perhaps, it might be nice just to put it on a consent calendar just so that we have one last look. If they've done things, as we expected, then I don't see why we can't approve it. But I think staff needs to work with them one more time, having heard what we have to say, and those are being requirements, not consideration. Because ultimately, staff only has so much they can do. When they work together, at some point, the applicant might say, I'm just not going to do that. And staff has, okay, fine, then you just go before the board and see what they say. Well, now we've given our opinion. That gives staff direction on where we want to go. So I don't know how Ms. Linsky feels about that. But
Mr. Insua?
I always want people to be successful and do a good job. I made some comments as we were talking about. I have some personal opinions concerning design by committee. I don't think it works. I personally would never go to staff of an organization or of a city to get design direction. That's what the burden is of the designer or the architect. They are not designer. They are not who were getting paid by the client to do design work. It's the burden of the designer who's hired by the client, so I've never been comfortable with that. It's the burden of the applicant to execute the design well, to understand what they're doing and deliver a product that can be approved. So I've never been a supporter, and I don't think ever will be, of designing too much at the staff level. I believe the elements are relatively major. I don't see them as minor from what I'm seeing. That's my opinion. And again, the staff is not a design firm. They hired this person to be the design firm. You can do this and that, but I see this as substantial, especially for this corner, this home, for this applicant. It deserves great design. This home deserves it. You drive up and down the street and you say, wow, who did that? Well, find out who did that. Wow, look at that one. That's not that good. Okay. This is a great corner. Boy, I would have loved to own this house in this corner. Really. This falls short, and I don't see it as a little tweaking here, maybe reducing the entry here. And what's this material here? Is this concrete? These little sawtooth. You're going to have staff do that? What's this little opening here? So the whole opening is these are major elements of architecture. Coins and how thick are these surrounds and the pickets on this, and is that wood on the top? And what's that on top? Is that precast cab? There's a lot here, in my opinion. And that's why I think we have 4 other people who can see it differently.
I don't think we're saying that we want staff to design it. I think we're just trying to have staff work with the applicant has to do all the work. I think the staff is there to say, no, I don't think that's what the board means by what you're doing. Go back and redraw it. I don't think that's the intent. The intent is not for Stephanie or anybody else to take the pen and design it for them. So.
Yes, that is not what we do.
Right.
You're not available for that?
Ms. Reich, if I may ask a question as it pertains to some of the discussions that have taken place with the applicant. Some of the items that we've brought forward, have these issues been identified and perhaps discussed with the client on this level of detail?
Yes, and thank you for asking. And I do think in the file we do have some previous iterations of the project. We have been encouraging consistently the applicant to simplify the design and had gotten to a point where we felt that it was ready to bring forward. It had been simplified significantly from the original design that was turned in, and we felt that it was necessary to move the project forward.
And do you feel if the applicant has an opportunity to work with you and your staff on this, based on some of the comments that have been made, do you think that is the good approach to take on this specific case?
Well, again, it's up to the board, of course, and I do believe that if we have some very specific guidance from the board, we would be happy to work with the applicant and either work with the applicant toward staff approval or work with the applicant to come back again. It's up to the board, but we are willing and able to do that and have done that already in many cases with the board's direction.
Thank you. Mr. Aliano, I think your comment of having the applicant perhaps work with staff and then for it to come back as a consent item, I think is an appealing one to me, because what that does is it allows us to take a look at this project holistically one more time. And what I mean is that we get another package with elevations and renderings and so forth. And it's going to be a consent item, and so anybody could, of course, pull it out of consent and open it up for discussion. And I'm emphasizing this is because I sense that there has been some communication between staff and the applicant and the designer, and you really have one more opportunity here to work hard at this and to follow the lead of staff and to really take into consideration what's being said here. Because if it comes back and it is perhaps falls short of everything that's been discussed, in that case, I think staff would have exhausted its efforts. And so we will deal with that in that case. So I'm comfortable proceeding in that Ms. Wright perhaps goes over some of these conditions that we've discussed. and we could talk about it as a group, and I would support the project to go back to staff and for it to come back as a consent item, and we'll see if other board members think that's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe I would suggest that it does get returned with the caveat being if staff is comfortable with it as a consent item, then we'd see it as a consent item, but not making it, we're expecting to have it come back. If staff can say, hey, you know what, we've worked this all out, it looks great, we're very happy, we'd like to run it through consent, then so be it, but...
Leave that decision.
Yes, leave that decision down the line. It's a little bit of a carrot, actually.
Yeah, and
We can do that.
And to clarify, typically, we would not put something on consent unless we feel that all of the issues have been worked out. We will typically not put something on the consent calendar that has any conditions. We will only put something on the consent calendar if, like tonight's project is an example. I think you very rarely see something on your consent calendar, and that's when we feel all the T's have been crossed and I's have been dotted.
In fact, I don't remember the last time there was an item on consent.
There hasn't been, as far as I know.
But the consent, no matter what happens, we're going to see it again. Either it comes back for redesign.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the direction you're going. It would be a return for redesign.
Then, as you said, if we're not happy, we can always pull it off
Correct.
calendar and give another series of comments.
And we'll get a whole package on it.
Right. So I think as long as we keep pushing to make the project better,
And I think that, the reason why I suggested that is, I think if there's some more interaction directly, this project has a better chance of perhaps getting to where we're trying to get it to, as opposed to just making some comments and having the applicant go away and come back again. It's might be more focused this way. Does someone want to, well, I guess we have to go over the conditions.
Yeah, I've written a few, and just sort of in the order that they've come, so some of them may not make sense, some of them may be more important than others, but I'll just read them as I've written them, and then Stephanie will jump in when, if I miss something or something needs clarification. So the first one was provide more details on the proposed windows. Maybe I'll read them all first, and then you can, we can go over them separately. So provide more details on the proposed windows. Redesign project entryway. The current design is not appropriate to the Mediterranean style. Third comment, style should reflect the importance of the corner, of the corner in which the house is located. Unify the design of the project. Remove coins and surrounds from the design. Reduce the impact of the front door design. Propose a more appropriate roofing material, not S-tile. Project needs stripping down and then focus on the materials. Introduce lights within the fenestration and restudy the fenestration style. The overall design should be simplified.
one correction that I like to make is on the roof tile. I think right now there's S-tile. What I was saying was if it's going to be clay tile, it should be, a traditional.
The barrel tile.
Single piece, not an S.
Right. Propose a more appropriate style roofing, not S-tile. So
Yeah, the S-tile is a commercial tile. It's
right.
not.
Right. Okay. So you're saying with the current style, you want to see the barrel.
Barrel, if they're going to
Okay.
use clay tile, yeah.
Sure.
And we have a few others that we heard from this side of the peanut gallery, that the vent at the garage is not appropriate, and there should be a more appropriate style to solve that programmatic problem. The gable in the center of the roof at the rear should be reconsidered. We'd probably like some additional input on that piece from you. We have been working with the applicant on the entry portion over the course of the time we've been working together. The entry portion has been reduced so far, and the door has been simplified dramatically from what we'd previously seen. So if we could have a little bit more specific guidance on that point, not much, we're not asking you to design it, but because this has been a point of conversation, a little more specific guidance on that point might be helpful to the applicant. We have, in general, and this speaks to many of the comments that Roger read off, the windows should be consistent with the style. Double-hung windows are not consistent, and there seems to be a strong recommendation to remove all the surrounds, recess the window, and look into having a sort of bullnose at the sash, and that the sill would be that kind of elongated sill that we typically see in this style. So that's what I'm hearing. So that would go for the second floor windows, which seem inappropriate, particularly because they are double hung. We heard a lot about the quality of the windows, so we'll work with the applicant on the specific quality. Typically, we will ask for a brochure that would be an as equal, since we like to provide some flexibility to the applicant while they develop their documents. The balcony and posts, we were told, look like they're added on and should be more fully integrated, particularly the balcony above the converted garage piece. And we've already removed the coins, asked for detail windows. I think those are all the notes that we have so far.
There was an earlier note about the railing on the patio, but again, we'd let that become a building and safety issue?
We could do that.
Where...
Yeah, up against the roof.
Yeah, the balcony just bleeds into the roof of the garage.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's just a reconsider, as opposed to...
Well, if it's a design issue, we can certainly address it. If you're not necessarily worried about it, then if building and safety is concerned in terms of building codes, they will address it.
Okay.
But it's better for the applicant to address it at this point, because you will have to address it during building and safety anyways. Well, those were a lot of comments and conditions, so I think staff certainly understands what we're trying to portray here.
There was a comment about more information on the...
Yeah, if we could get a little bit more information on the entry.
When was the last time we returned something when was the last time we brought something to a consent that had this long list of things that we're looking at?
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think we're asking for consent.
Right.
No, I'm just saying it's like in the past, when we have seen a long list of items that are needing to be looked at and refined and improved, I can't recall the last time we have said, let staff work with it, and then it's not what we've done. What we've done is we've given clear direction to the designers, to the applicants, quickly execute what we're doing so that this lady can move into her house before she has the baby. I see this process. Now we're going to go with the staff. They're going to work together. Good architecture is not executed in a group. It's executed by having a vision of what you want to do. You sit down, you bang it out, you know what you're doing, and it works. This process is that we have a list of 20 items. I just don't see it working. We've never done it before. We've given direction for the people who are burdened to present the drawings successfully, and let staff do their processing, do their working, and we review it. Anyway, that's again my...
Why don't you make that as a motion? Why don't you just...
We'd like to interject something.
If I may, I think Board Member Ellis, when he was describing how things get placed on consent calendar, actually had it correct. That only if things are really worked out very well with something on consent calendar, it would, it is probably inappropriate for the board to, ahead of time, direct that something beyond the consent calendar. And in any case, if something's on the consent calendar, you can still pull it and discuss it. So
I know, but I want to give the applicants what we've given the last 6 years of
But,
applicants.
you know, I hear what you're saying, but I think the reason why we're doing this is because this applicant has worked with the city, and they have not been fully successful. This is what we have. And it appears to me that this applicant will not be able to pull this off unless there's help from the city.
Well said.
Or, when did the city become a design studio? If this applicant can't pull it off, they hire someone that can do it. He hires a consultant that can do
Well,
it. I've never heard a city take on the burden of successfully designing a project for somebody.
I don't think that's what we're doing.
Okay, but at what point, when you have 20 items, does it not become a design exercise to get it right? I mean, you can tweak a window here and there, and that, okay, city, do it.
Let me make a
I don't
suggestion.
see it.
I think,
I think we have a mistake.
yeah, I think, well, and perhaps different viewpoints or whatnot, but I think what is important is we try to flush this out with some motions. And you know, so Mr. Ellis is suggesting that someone make a motion. It could be Mr. Ellis himself.
I'm ready to do that.
And at that point, we'll kind of get a sense as where the board is.
We'd also
Just
like
leave
more
it at that.
impact on the, or more specific direction on the entryway, the entryway piece.
Right.
So more specific design direction on the entryway is what you want from us to do.
I think
At what point do you want us to just, you know, I can get a flare pen and sit down and bang it out for you guys.
I think,
I agree with that.
yeah, I think
it's
we
enough.
can move on from the
I'm going to
entry.
make a motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Right.
I'm going to move that the project come back for redesign with the comments made, and it's up to the applicant to either go to the city or not. If they want to do it on their own, they do it on their own, but we want to see a good design. And I'll leave it at that.
And I think that's what we've done over the last 6 years that I've been here off and on.
Second it then.
I want a second. You deserve better. You deserve better.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the project, to return the project for redesign. This will be a roll call. Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
And Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Could we take a quick 2-minute
Oh, we
break?
have to.
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate at this point in time to take a quick recess.
They have to move.
Yes, we're back after recess, and there are several staff announcements. One, we would need to actually have motions made and continuances approved for the 3 cases that were mentioned at the very beginning of the meeting. This would be for the project located at 1343 Highland Avenue. This is case number 1-PDR-2007-059B. This case is being continued to October the 15th, for a total of 4 weeks. And do I have a motion to continue this matter?
I
To
move
the
we
date certain?
continue to a date certain.
The date certain, which would be October, forgive me, I'm being corrected, October 16th. So I have a motion by Board Member Ellis and a second by
I'll second.
Board Member Yu. And Board Member Ellis?
Aye.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes, and
That was
again, this
Highland.
would be to continue the project located at 1343 Highland Avenue to October the 16th. The other 2 cases that are going to be continued, we can take as a joint, but I'll go ahead and take it as a joint continuance, would be case number 1-PDR-2007-158A. This is for 1242 Winchester Avenue, as well as case number 1-PDR-2007-133A. This would be for 1953 Bellevue Drive. Both of these cases are to be continued to the October 2nd Design Review Board date. So with that said, do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Forgive me, was that a motion made by Board Member Aliano? Very quick, all right. And a second by Board Member Ellis. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Ellis?
Aye.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Those would be for both of those cases. Thank you very much. Now, it's come to our attention that Board Member Aliano actually resides within 500 feet of the project on the agenda listed as 3456 Buena Vista. So in order for him to recuse himself and allow him to go home, if the board please allow us to go ahead and reorganize the agenda one more time, and then we would be bringing the last case on today's agenda, which would be 297 Kempton Road, as the next hearing item before you.
Have we thrown them off our trail yet?
I think that this has been one of those agendas that I've
So which one are we
not being
doing?
reorganized anymore.
Which one are we doing now?
So we would now be taking care of 297 Kempton Road,
Got it,
and
yes.
then the final case on the agenda for today would be the 3456 Buena Vista Avenue. At which
Thank
time
you.
Board Member Aliano would be recusing himself, so,
Very good.
and going home. So,
What time does the game start?
Dinner. Very good. Well, so our next case is 1-PDR-2007-152-A, 297 Kempton Road. Mr. Baxter, do you want to give us a staff presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, do you all have the photographs? I think I have
Yes,
it.
they're here.
Okay, you've had, Mr. Chair, members of the board, our case is PDR 2007-152A, located at 297 Kempton Road. The first time submittal by the applicant. It was continued from the August 21st meeting because the site did not have the public notice on the street like it's required. Now, the proposal is to demolish an existing building, which you can see an outline of here. It's a little horse-shaped, shoe-shaped area on the site plan, and there's a pool and a fence over here. And this existing house that's going to be demolished is a single-story house. It's approximately 2,900 square feet and has an attached two-car garage. The applicant will be constructing a new two-story, 6,100 square foot house with a detached four-car garage. At this time, the applicant is sharing a common driveway. You might notice that in some of the photographs. The applicant is proposing a separate driveway with a separate stair with their own safety walls and retaining walls going up to their house. So they'll still remain the existing driveway, but then there'll be a new one adjacent to it. And that's where, if there's any real grading, it will occur there. Now, the existing house is a mid-century modern home. It was constructed in 1953. If you look on the photographs, there is a photograph of the, you can see of the house, and get a feel for what it looks like. The existing pad, if you look here, the overall lot is around 32,000 square feet, but the pad is almost half that size. It's about 48% of the lot area is pad, and it's relatively flat when I went up there. And this is where all the development will occur. The existing house is about 39 feet from the street. The new house, which is back here, you can see right here, this is the edge, the closest part. And the height of the pad as you go up the hill on Kempton ranges in different height elevations. So this will be the lowest, closest place to the street, and this will be the furthest, highest point. The new house, though, will be carried forward to this corner over here, so it'll be a little closer at 20 feet.
Mr. Baxter?
Sure.
Very quick clarification and a question for me. This Kempton Road at the top there, is it?
Up here, sir?
Yeah, and this over here? Yeah.
Oh. Well, we can see it,
on the map.
actually, sir, we can
Circles
see it
around.
over
It's a
here.
hairpin.
If we look over here, we put up an overview, so you can see this, that was a mistake, wasn't it? So here's our shared driveway right there, and this is where it comes over to there.
Goes around, okay, very good.
So you can get a feel for what's going on.
I understand.
Actually, I kind of blew it up. This is the...
If you touch the screen, it's...
I touched the screen. Well, maybe just leave it for the time being. This is kind of a blow-up view of it right here with that shared driveway going up, and here's a neighbor to the top of the hill. Now, I'm just sort of going through the staff report, so very quickly, I'm going to give a quick neighborhood comparison. When we look at the neighboring lot sizes, this particular lot, as I mentioned, is around 33,000 square feet. just under 33,000 square feet. The average is about 22, but it ranges in between 6,700 to 141,000. So it can be a fairly large range. Actually, it's pretty much one lot that skews everything up. The house setbacks, the averages in the area are between 5 and 20 feet versus 20 feet for the new house here. The average house size, the range is 1452 to 7467, which is one house. The one house in the survey is 7,400 square feet. The average in the neighborhood is 2,600 square feet, though. Of course, this house will be 6,200 square feet. Floor area ratios, there's a range between 0.5 to 0.35. This one will be 0.19, you'll be 0.19. The number of stories, 64% of the homes in the neighborhood are two-story homes. Now, when we look at our design guideline critique that we did, I'm going to just go through it very quickly. Under the category of site planning, the staff's concerns really center on the design impacts relating to the house, garage location, landscaping, and retaining walls. And another category under our mass and scale, staff had concerns here relating to the massing of the house, including its roof. Staff didn't feel that it fit the low-profile character of the neighborhood if you look in the photographs or if you've driven through the neighborhood. And we didn't feel that the massing was in character. On the architectural style, the existing mid-century modern ranch-style home seems to be more of a similar characteristic in the neighborhood. In our summary here, we did note that the new house, the proposed house, has a vertical orientation, including the windows. I think it's probably because of this Mediterranean style that's selected. It seems to conflict, be very sensitive with the overall design theme of the neighborhood. Also, we had concerns with the white vinyl windows. We didn't think it was consistent with the selected architectural style or with the neighborhood in general. There was a note here I'd like to point out in which staff made an error about the red tile roof. The applicant did submit a revised plan, and I didn't pick up on it. The previous one had a red tile roof. It had lighter stucco. We didn't note the stucco in either case, but we had noted it was a red tile roof. The massing of the roof never changed. It's pretty much always been the same. So, but the color, it's just brownish color here. And then if we finish with our conditions, there were 7 conditions, and what I'll mention overall as part of our recommendation to return it for redesign in the 7 conditions is that the first 2 relate to the mass and scale of the building. The third one relates to the setbacks. Landscaping and retaining walls are 4, 5, and 6, those conditions, and number 7 relates to the windows. And that's just a very quick overall summary of the staff report. I could do my best to go through it in more detail with you and go through it with you some more if you want to. But, you know what I can do real quick here, because I know I can see you kind of looking at everything. You can see we have the site plan. We got our floor plans, roof plan. Here's a section view. We have our elevations. Over here, what the applicant did, when we met with the applicant earlier in our discussions with him, he was concerned that we were just narrowing our focus just to this immediate area, and he wanted to show us that from his site there are homes within the area that have a scale and an architectural style and a height similar to his proposal. And so that's what this is. He's showing these homes here, he's listing them, he's listing their sizes, etc. through here. And then he also did I sort of oriented to the site, but he also showed his relationship to his neighbors. This particular, here's a proposal. Here's the particular neighbor up the slope on the shared driveway that comes up. This one, I'll let the architect also talk about it. there are portions of the roof here that are approximately 4 feet higher. So this shows it below the pad, but in reality, when you add the site plan, elevation and you add the neighbor elevation and then you add the height, it comes up to about 3 feet 7 inches taller than the neighbor's pad. So this is a little bit taller here, so there'll be portions. If you look at the roof, not all the roof is that tall, but there are portions of it that are. And then over here, here's another section view showing how he relates in this way. So your green goes this way, your red goes this way, and these are neighboring homes in the area outside of our district area that we normally look at, because council has sort of asked staff to look at more of the immediate neighborhood. But these are ones that the applicant says that are very similar and within the vicinity. That pretty much wraps up my staff report. If you have any questions, I'll do with you.
Do we have any more questions for staff? Jolly, do you have any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Baxter.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Here's the code of truth. I just noticed that's not...
Sorry. The first speaker is Edward Hagopian, who is the architect for this project.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. My name is Edward Hagopian. I'm the architect of this project, and my address is 220 South Kenwood Street, Suite 210, Glendale 91205. Let's start from the site design. The first thing that I would like to explain to you is the driveway issue. The existing driveway is shared between these owners and the neighbor. And if we build a new house, we cannot use that existing driveway because of the slopes it has that goes above 20% slope, and the transitions are not right, and it's not acceptable for the city. So if we want to correct that driveway, what will happen? We will end up with a lower location at the top, and the neighbor cannot enter to his property. That is why we had to have a new driveway. So that's the reason to have a new driveway, and the only choice we had is wherever it is now. And barely we made the design to match the height of the retaining walls and slope of the driveway, the transition, so that we did not exceed the allowed height for the retaining walls. And one of the comments of the city is to have some landscaping in between the walkway and the driveway, which we do not have that opportunity, that space. If we push the walkway furthermore into the slope, then the retaining walls will be higher. So that is the reason for the driveway. I want to briefly go through the lot coverage, floor area ratio, and stories, which maybe it's irrelevant for the design review board, but for the lot coverage, this is the 6th biggest. For the floor area ratio, it's 5th, so it's number 5 from the top. Stories, as Chris Baxter explained, there's a big percentage of the houses that they are 2-story. Setback, there are a lot of houses with 5-foot setback. Ours is 20 foot, the average is 20. But the main issue which I have presented those maps are the compatibility issue, because we are close to the small houses, and but we can see, and we are not far from all these huge big houses that are built with some of them 3-story and plus, because those who are on the downslope, they have 3-story plus some foot, like 3, 4, 5 foot underneath there. And even in the same street that we have smaller houses, It's true that the houses look one story from the street side, but if you turn around and go from the other side and look back to these hills, then you will see that those houses are not one story. They are more than 2 story. I don't want to say 3 story, but there is underfloor area underneath that makes that houses to look big. There is a mistaken staff report saying that the windows are clad vinyl. It's not. He mentioned it's clad white, but not vinyl. It will be real clad aluminum window, very high quality. Also, the color of the stucco is different, is darker, and the color of the roof is darker. Also, all the windows that are not covered by any balcony, they are recessed, as you can see even in the rendering, in the plans, all of them. We have thick walls of, I don't remember exactly what's the width of it, but up to probably a foot wide or thick walls, and all the windows are recessed, and it's shown in the plans in detail and how those windows are set back. Other than that, I can't remember anything else to say, except that if I can approach it, maybe it's not necessary. You can see already the pictures of the neighboring houses from, and most of, or I would say all of those pictures are taken from our property. So all these buildings are visible from our property. I think that's all I can say.
Okay.
And if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions for the architect?
I have a question. Well, I want to sort of understand. This driveway, then, if I understand it, you created a new driveway because by using the old one, you would have been too high up to create your motor court up at the
No,
very
it's
top.
the other way.
Okay.
First of all, we cannot use that driveway for a new house because it's not according to today's
Okay,
code.
all right.
So we have to lower that. So if we lower that...
so you're talking about the slope.
Slope,
Okay,
yes.
I got it, okay.
If we lower that, then the neighbor cannot enter
I
the
understand.
property.
So you created a new driveway with the legal slope.
Legal slope, and we are not abandoning the other driveway, but that will be used only by the other
Right.
neighbor because we cannot enter to our
Okay,
property.
I got it, I got it. And then, is there, where's that pointer here? So, because the slope is different,
Yes,
this is going to be lower,
yes.
right? Now, how much retainage do you have here?
The retaining walls, as you know, the first 5 feet around the setbacks, side setbacks, cannot be higher than 3 feet. Not wall, just fence wall can, yeah.
I forgot my code.
At interior setbacks, these are interior setbacks here. The code is that the highest retaining wall we can have in the first 5 feet away from the property line, the maximum height is 3 feet. Beyond that, the maximum height is 5 feet. Of course, we are talking about retaining wall, not regular wall. A fence wall can be, I believe, higher than that. There's no limit, or maybe there is some kind of higher limit on that, or no limit on that.
Within 5 feet?
Within first 5 feet of the property line. Yeah. The height of the retaining wall is limited to 3 feet.
So the farther you get away from the setback line,
It becomes 5 feet maximum height. We were able to manage this driveway not to have higher than 3 foot retaining wall when we reach to the top. So the highest wall can be 3 feet only.
so now, but the other people on the other side, how are they being protected from?
We can have a fence on top of it. The
So maybe a
is,
retaining, or there could be a hedge or something.
it can be concrete wall. It can be as high as 6 foot or 7 foot high Beyond the remaining portion of it, it can go higher.
So you're talking about the retainage.
Retainage portion,
There's a
yeah.
5-foot maximum, and, so you're saying that at the very top, you're 5 feet or 3 feet?
No. At the top, I don't remember exactly the numbers, but we are about 2 feet. It changes because this driveway does not have a uniform slope. So the maximum difference is 2.5, close to 3 feet. But at the end, we are about 2 feet lower than this
Okay,
location.
I got it.
Yeah.
And there's no other retainage because the other side actually...
The other side does not have any retaining wall, it's just naturally cut off the slope with the rock.
The garage, how's the garage?
The garage is here.
But how is that sitting?
We enter to the garage in this direction.
Then you have a hill here.
Yes.
And that's the existing pad that you have for the house. The house sitting.
This is lowered a little bit to match this.
But the pad of the house is approximately.
Generally, the pad stays wherever it is.
Do you know what the elevation is of the existing pad? The finished floor
Uh,
height?
I believe we are keeping almost the same elevation. Always.
A finished floor, so we're at 910 here. Okay, thank you.
So the back of the garage wall here, there's no, you're not having to create not a retainage, but building up underneath because it's sloping, right?
Yes, but the height is according to the code. It's the code is that from lowest point to the highest reach of the roof in accessory building, 15 feet is the maximum, and that's what it is.
Oh, no, so you're counting from this point,
From the
it's going to
lowest.
be lower.
Yes.
Right, and that's going to be higher.
Any other questions for the architect?
We do not have any other, we don't have any variance to file for the excavation amount of the cut and fill, or setback, or height, or anything else. Everything else is according to the code.
I have one last question. The renderings show a really nice shadow line at the windows. Are the windows actually recessed?
Yes, Mr. Aliano, if you look in the, may I come close and show that?
Yeah.
Here,
Very nice.
and here, and here, and here. Not wherever we have balcony, we have column. This, we don't have that.
Very good.
Quick one question. Was a single-story development ever considered?
Yes, the owners, for the owners, it's out of question, because that will occupy larger portion of that flat area, and by the time we create a kind of hammerhead backup area for the garage, most of that flat area is gone, and it's not possible to have a swimming pool or kind of back yard for barbecue or sitting area, something like that. The slope of the roof is 4 to 12. Just in case if the board decides to ask for reduction of the height, we can reduce that 4 to 12 to 3 to 12, and also the second floor height is 10 feet, we can reduce it to 9 feet, just in case if that will help. And by the way, the top of the ridge is higher than the neighbor on the back, the backyard is higher, but the plate line is almost the same level.
Yes, the adjacent neighbor's finished floor height is approximately 932. So they're approximately 932, their floor height, and then your plate height.
Theirs is a little bit higher than 932 because they have an underfloor area that is raised that maybe another 2 to 3 feet is higher. You can see the pictures, yes.
I did it roughly from this little survey we had. Okay.
What's the percentage of trees that are remaining on the site?
To be honest with you, it has been almost a year that we submitted this project, and I don't remember the number of the trees that we cut. We submitted this in year 2007, December. Some of those trees, existing trees, are not stable, and the strong winds will bring it down. That's the danger for this house.
Do you know what kind they are and
No,
area?
I'm not, I don't know the name of the tree, but you can see in the photos.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. Hagopian? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Albert Alkanyan. I'm sorry, Alkani.
Yeah, the new father and the new mother with the 3 weeks old child.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you would state your name for the record.
Albert Agakani. Good evening, everybody. I live at 297 Campton Road. I am a Glendale resident for about 20 years. I was a homeowner in Northwest Glendale for about 10 years. And I also have a business in Glendale. I intend to raise my family in Glendale and retire in Glendale. This investment in this lot and proposed house is a major part of my retirement plan. We hired Mr. Edward Hagopian as our project architect, and we know that he's been designing many hillside houses in city of Glendale, and we trust his experience. There are 2- and 3-story large houses clearly visible from our property, with some of those are presented with photos to the board. We think the compatibility should include those larger houses also. Those larger houses are visible more than our proposed project, being located at higher elevation. We meet all requirements and comply with all zoning, building, fire, and engineering codes. And I ask your kind attention to this matter. In addition, I just had my first child and intend to have more children and raise my children in our dream house. I therefore respectfully request that this board approve my project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker is Steve Bussier.
Mr.
Yes?
I think the wife wanted to speak.
Oh, okay. Let me. By all means, and it'll be part of the ownership comments. And if you would just fill out a card afterwards if you haven't
I
done so
already
already.
did. Judith Agakani last name. I'm just going to read.
You can do it later.
Yeah, go ahead.
If it has to be redone.
Good evening, board members, audience, and staff. My name is Judith Agakani, and I live at 297 Kempton Road. I've been living in Glendale for over 10 years. As a mother, I feel that Glendale is a great and safe city to raise our children in. The city of Glendale has changed a lot in the past 10 years since I've been a resident here. The needs of people have changed. Our community is growing. It used to be that siblings would share a bedroom, but now that is not the case anymore, especially because Albert and I would like to have more children. Therefore, a larger home would better suit our needs. The existing house is not in a good condition, and the remodeling and addition is not a choice, since we would have to change all the windows, doors, plumbing, roof, etc. Therefore, we decided to demolish the existing home and to build a new house. Our intention is not to block anyone's view or to overlook to any of our neighbors' property. Our house is 20 to 30 feet above Kempton Road at the front of the house and 85 to 90 feet above Kempton Road from the northwest, which is the rear of our property. Our proposed project will not be visible from the street compared to other 2- and 3-story homes that are clearly visible from the street. I would like to mention a few things. We just received a couple of letters from our neighbors which oppose our project, and they actually live in 2-story homes. And we just received those letters now. We didn't get a chance to read them before. And we also would like to mention the project at 265 Kempton Road, which is the vacant lot at the, you see it on the picture. And the owner was granted a permit to build a 2-story, 7,500 square feet home with an attached garage. And from the outside, it gives you the appearance of a 3-story house since the garage is attached to the home.
And the lot is our next-door property, and there is only a 30-second walk from our property to 265 Kempton Road. And since they have been granted a permit, I would like you to give us the opportunity to build our dream home here in Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, I found your card. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now our next speaker would be Steve Bussier? Bus Yeager.
Yeah.
Very good. Sorry for mispronouncing.
Steve, my name's Steve Busjager. I'm a resident at 336 Kempton Road. I welcome, new houses being built. I just built my house, tore my house down, built a new house a year and a half ago. I finished my project. I also started with my dream house, and I didn't quite get everything I wanted, but I'm quite happy with the house I have. My only concern, and this is the first time I've seen the project, my only concern is that all of the houses that are shown there are not on our street. Okay, I ended up with a one-story house, started with a two-story house, and I don't mind a two-story house at all on the street. It's as long as when you drive down the street, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. And other than that, and as long as it's a quality built house. And so if we can attain that, or if the builder can attain that, and the owner can build that kind of a house where it doesn't stick out, I'm not gonna go against it, but it's the height and the mass when you drive down the street that's going to stick out, because most of the houses on the street are a lower profile house, and you can build a two-story low profile house, and so that's my only concerns, and I'd just like for the design review board to take that into consideration. So, all right.
Thank you. Next speaker is Philip Keller.
Good evening, Chairman, board members, and staff. My name is Philip Keller. I serve on the board of the Northwest Glendale Homeowners Association, and I'm its DRB representative. I'm going to have to speak a little quick to get all my stuff in 3 minutes. We've got some very serious concerns with this proposed project at 297 Kempton. First and foremost is the sheer incompatible scale of this proposal with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed size of this project is a huge 6,181 square feet, which is 238% larger than the neighborhood average of 2,598 square feet. 238% larger cannot in any way be considered compatible. It simply can't on scale alone. However, this listed neighborhood average of 2,598 square feet is actually somewhat artificially inflated, as it takes into account a huge 7,467 square foot home design that, although has been allowed within the 300-foot radius, it has not been built. It's been sitting there, empty lot, for a couple of years, and I believe it will not be built because of the economy and the cost to build and the excavation required for that project. The true existing average of the neighborhood that this house would have an impact on is actually 2,223 square feet, which puts this proposal at 278% larger than the average. Approaching 3 times the size of the average home is not compatible. Furthermore, the proposed 861 square foot 4-car detached garage alone is almost 40% the size of the average home. We're getting out of scale here. We're talking about a blatantly overscaled home proposal for this modestly sized neighborhood. This is just not an appropriate project to build here based on scale alone. Well, how about the design, you might ask? First, let's look at the prevailing design characteristics of this neighborhood. This area of Kempton Road and Viewcrest Road contain 13 homes, which are mostly mid-century modern and ranch styles. 1 story, he says 2, but they're really 1 story that slope down the back and 2.5 second story on the downslope of the hills, but streetscape impact-wise 1 story. That their layout has a low, flat, pitched roofs or flat roofs. These modest homes fit well within the unique terrain of this neighborhood environment. Specifically, if these lots sit on hillside edges or atop small ridge lines, as the subject property does, and are visible by mostly 4 sides of each home, as this house will be too. This requires low-slung massing and horizontal design to blend into and mirror the uphill sloping topography harmoniously, which all of the existing homes do, and this proposal does not. This proposal would be in stark contrast to this design philosophy. Its two-story boxy massing and many vertical design elements are the antithesis of what should be put here. Not only will this huge home be visually out of place from the front side of Kempton, but it would also project significantly above the stepping rhythm of the existing homes as plainly viewed on Hillcrest Road behind it. Not to mention the detached garage will look like a second house in scale from Viewcrest on the back of the lot. How about style and details? Contemporary Mediterranean style does not fit into this neighborhood at all. Instead, this bulky and staccato design would better fit on a large estate-sized lot and a non-hillside setting down the hill in the flatlands. The detached garage is also an issue. All the other homes are mostly all attached that fit into the low one-unit style. What next? We feel that this home should be denied in return for a redesign, thorough redesign, one that explores a one-story layout in a more appropriate architectural style, less than 6,000 square feet, which would hopefully reduce the need for the 4 spaces in the parking garage down to 3 or maybe even 2. Or maybe even do some of the square footage underground with a half exposure on the rear elevation of the terrain, as happened on another project that was recently before this board on Allen. Fundamentally, this design proposal failed to understand, let me just finish real quickly, one very important core architectural comment, which is to make the house fit the environment and not the other way around. We hope the architect will guide the client towards a more compatible design solution so the project can move forward. We want them to have their dream home, but it should also respect the existing environment and the neighbors in the immediate neighborhood. Thank you.
Have you had a chance to meet with the applicants?
I have not. I met with the neighbors.
I see.
Many of the neighbors, and have spent a lot of time looking at the area and the hillsides and the potential impact of the massing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Rita Moore.
Needs 4? They don't need a 4.
Good evening, Chairman, board members, and staff. My name is Rita Moore. I live at 289 Kempton Road, adjacent to 297 Kempton Road. Opposed to the demolishing of the beautiful home and then building a very large house on the land pad just below mine. After reviewing the initial plans of the house, I feel that this structure will not be architecturally compatible with the existing neighborhood homes. The plans show a massive-sized contemporary Mediterranean two-story house with 6,121 square feet plus 861 square foot detached 4-car garage. The surrounding houses within 300 linear feet average 2,598 square feet, with my house being 1,721 square feet. Many of the houses are one level and all have attached garages. The houses that are 2 levels were designed with the second floor below the street level. So when you drive up and down Kempton, the houses all look like they are just 1 story. My property was purchased over 52 years ago because of the beautiful view. Building this 2-story house will have a direct impact on my view and the value of my property. My major concern is my property pad is approximately 23 feet above the pad at 297 Kempton. The 2-story building would be 26 feet 7 inches high, which is almost 4 feet above my pad level. The roof will be a dark color with many pitches, so it will dominate my view and keep me from seeing much of the beautiful city. As you know, the current house is a low-profile, 1-story building with 2,869 square feet, and it has a green rock roof, so it blends in well with the landscape and does not obstruct my view to any great degree. To summarize, I feel the house is too large and is in conflict with the character and design of the neighborhood and will have an overpowering negative impact on my house and the nearby homes. I do hope my neighbors will redesign their dream home to be more compatible with the houses around them. I respectfully ask the city to reject the request as submitted. Also, I would like, if possible, to have the house safety poles put up so we can all see how large it will be if approved. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kathleen Schaller or Shackler. I'm unable to read the handwriting. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you. Schaller.
Schaller.
My name is Kathleen Schaller, and I live on the property directly adjacent to this Kempton home on the west side slope going up the hill. I live on Viewcrest Road. The size of this house is really way out of proportion to anything I have seen in the area. They point out that they've seen some two-story homes, which they probably have, but the ones I see on street level are all like one story and then they go down. The homes on Viewcrest Road and in the area are all ranch-style homes, and they have been designed to fit into the slope of the hill. I knew Mr. Castro, who designed and built all these homes many years ago, and one of them, which was mine luckily, won an architectural design for the hill. But the fact that he wants to slope out, which will hang over the hillside there, for a four-car garage, just amazes me. The planned driveway deprives me of my easement rights recorded on Book 567, pages 23 and 24 of Lot 9. I use this parcel of land to clear my hill of brush and trim the trees. I notice my neighbor has not trimmed his lot this year. The Mediterranean design and massive size with many protruding roof heights makes it look like a grand hotel, not a friendly family-size home. There are homes up on McGinn Drive and Wonderview which would fit his style and desired size perfectly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no other speaker cards. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak on this case? For the record, I'd like to point out that we have received correspondence from residents as well. We have a letter from Rosalie Walter, a letter from Sue Ann and Tom Tate, a letter from Alfrede Schweitzer, a letter from Narine and Mesrop Turadzikian, a letter that's signed by 3 individuals, one of which is Robert Carley and a Melissa Ganazian, and lastly, a letter from Kathleen Schaller. Does the architect wish to take a few moments to perhaps shed some light on some of the items that were discussed or some of the comments that were made?
Just one or two items that I would like to mention, that there is no possibility of having underground garage in this property unless we do a lot of grading and open up trenches to enter to underneath the building. That's one thing I would like to say. And the second thing is that really you see a minimum portion of this house when you drive or walk in the Kempton Road. Because one of a sudden, I am sure that board members have been there and has seen how you one of a sudden you go up and that flat portion of it is not visible from the street. The other thing that I would like to mention, the other big house that was mentioned that maybe the owner is not going to build. As a matter of fact, this was approved last year as in the process of getting a building permit soon, and his intention is to build that house. These are the things that I can remember. The owner would like to mention something if it's possible. Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Regarding the trees, Mr. You had
If you would state your name for the record.
Judy Ragakani, 50% of the trees are going to stay.
Okay.
On the, you see the long line of the trees, so almost 50% of those are going to stay.
The larger ones?
Yes, the larger ones which are right next to the living room right now, so those are going to stay. And also, I would like to mention those 2 homes which are within 300 feet of our property, and from Kempton Road, they look like there actually are 3-story homes, and also the 7,500 square foot home, which Mr. Hagopian and myself mentioned. So, any other questions? Thank you.
The applicant as a group has an opportunity to rebuttal, share some thoughts. So lastly, does Mr. Alani, please, part of the rebuttal process, you're being looked at as one applicant here.
My name is Albert Alani again. A couple of things with respect to our neighbor concerns. I got a few photos. If I
please hand it to staff.
Yes. These are 2 photos. Those photos are within 300 feet of our properties, and they are not from the steep of the lot. You could easily see when you drive Campton Road, or when you go up Columbus, when it becomes Campton, when you go up all the way to our property, it's on the left-hand side, and they look like it's 3-story building. Those 2 houses. And with respect to our neighbor, the uphill neighbor, as you see on the section, Mr. Hagopian provided some section that we are absolutely not obstructing her view. Even though the roof pitch is about 2 to 3 feet in height from her property, we are still not obstructing her view whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, for the record, we also have a letter from Paul Burkhart, and also a letter that was just handed to me by Mr. James Polk. And Mr. Polk.
I mailed it to you.
Very good. Thank you so much. And since there's no other comments from the group,
may I see Mr. Polk's letter, please?
Yes.
Is that the handwritten one? Oh, no. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He's correct. He's correct.
There you have this one.
He should have, he's correct. It's in the file. That's right here. Mr. Polk is correct. It came out. I'm just surprised it's not in the file. I mean, it's in the file. It's right here. So I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Polk.
Well, we'll make sure all the board members read it. I just read it. So with that, since there's no more cards and there's no more speakers that are willing to speak on this case, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and start the discussion amongst us. Since I started on the right side last time, perhaps I could start on the left side this time. Mr. Ayano.
You know, I'm going to preface what I'm about to say. My comments are not going to be really about the architecture. They're not going to be about the architect. They're really more about this application in general and the applicant as well. It's going to be more about the parameters that are set for a project like this. For me to stand here and start picking on the design and pointing to whether a window should be larger or not than another, or whether an entryway should be in a certain location, serves no point. Mr. Hagopian is a very capable architect. He's done some very nice work in the city of Glendale. And I like to say that it's not really about necessarily the aesthetics, not necessarily about the composition of the design, because I'm sure that this project would look very nice in a different kind of site. My concern with this project is that I think the parameters of the project that have been set are not realistic. And realistic in the sense that you're creating a project that becomes a dream for someone, but it could become a nightmare for others. And I think we should be very vigilant of that as a board. I'd like to say that, you know, the argument, you know, that's kind of plastered all over that wall, showing a map of that section of the city with pictures of humongous houses I don't think that's a strong argument for this project. In fact, that's the opposite for me. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the majority of those buildings there, if not 99% of them, are all mistakes. Should have never been done. And so to use that and say, look what's in our neighborhood, we're building one just like it, I think is a bad idea. I think it's not a good argument that makes a case for this project. As I said, I mean, I think it's fruitless to talk about the architecture, talk about the details, the windows. I think this project is really about scale, and it's about how it fits on the site. As I mentioned earlier, you know, a project like this, I mean, if you forget the size for a while, and you look at how it's in balance and proportion, you would think, you know, I have a very flat site, in an area that doesn't have hills, it would work. Because there's a pad there, it doesn't mean that you use it like it were in a flat area of the city. You know, these are hills, and I think we need to preserve and maintain the natural landscape of these hills, and the buildings that we put in these hills have to work and be harmonious with the hillside and the buildings that are already there, which we can't change. So I think if this board feels that this project is acceptable and gets approved, I think we're sending the wrong message. I think as a board, we need to take a stand and not accept this. This is not a 6,100 square foot house on a hillside just because you're legally you can meet the FAR for this lot because it's a huge lot doesn't mean you should do it. I'm not telling the applicant how they should live. They have a right to build a house here the way they like it. But I think we as a group of citizens need to be concerned about that. I think the applicant needs to be concerned about that. Again, just because there's other houses in the area that are as big as this doesn't justify this one. So I don't really have a lot to say except for that. I think for me to really critique this project, I want to see it back and I want to see it downscaled, and then we can start to talk about the architecture and how it fits in. But today, this building doesn't work. I think the scale needs to be reduced tremendously for me to even comment on the architecture. So I will not be supporting this project today.
Thank you, Mr. Aliano. Mr. Sewell.
Okey-doke. I don't understand. We as professional designers have an obligation to successfully design a project for our client. And if our client wants to do something that appears to be going in the wrong direction, I believe as professionals we have to say we can't do it. That's my philosophy. Having said that, there are tools in place here in the city of Glendale that allows people to design homes successfully. Tools. What are those tools? Well, just today, I know this neighborhood well, but just today, I wanted to see what tools are available for designers and homeowners to understand what is the process to successfully design homes. You deserve successfully designed home, and I don't want to be up here to preach, but I want to give tools for people to successfully navigate design review. So you go on the website to the City of Glendale Planning Department, and it gives you guidelines for design. So I went to the website today, and I knew that this was a ranch-style home. Then it says ranch home neighborhoods. Okay, this is a tool that designers, architects, builders, homeowners can utilize to be successful. And by the way, the DRB is empowered by certain words that I remember. We shall ensure the compatibility of these neighborhoods. Not think about it, not in the future. That's been made really clear in the last year. We shall enforce and continue the existing fabric of neighborhoods and compatibility. Okay, but because I don't think I'm the brightest guy around, I need tools to help me. What does that mean? So I utilize this, which anyone can get, ranch home neighborhoods. This is a ranch home neighborhood. They talk about setting. The groups of neighborhoods have been named so because many of the homes designed in the ranch style, so on and so forth. Prominence in the city of Glendale in mid-50s and 60s, when most of the city's ranch homes were built.
This sprawling form, low-lying structure, with emphasis on greater facade width, with attached garage, so on and so forth. And you can see it here. Sprawling, laying out, utilizing the site with attached garage. I'm not that smart, but I can see that. So these are what I would do as an architect to figure out what's going to work in this neighborhood. And it says it right here. Although the architectural style is clearly the most dominant feature of the district, any ranch-style district which has ranch-style homes, so on and so forth, the feature of the district of ranch home neighborhoods share many other characteristics that include uniform front setbacks. This one can't do that, but if you can see, this size does, or this style does, or size does because of the downslope. Relatively average lot sizes, excellently maintained, an interesting landscape, so on and so forth. Here's what it says about mansionization. Of new infill homes that have been constructed, the primary aspects come from excessive mass and scale, and the incorporation of inappropriate architectural styles such as Spanish colonial revival and postmodernist efforts. Well, this is similar to, Spanish revival. It's Mediterranean. And I can go on and on and on and on, but it's not that hard for someone who's not as bright as me to get a pretty good idea of what way we're going with these neighborhoods that have this kind of home. So then after I do all that, I look at what's being proposed, it doesn't work. And as I agree with Mr. Aliano, we could go into the architecture, the style, the proportion, the style. It's beautiful, but it doesn't work here. So this whole effort is gorgeous. It doesn't work here. And it's a shame. These are available for everyone to utilize. People who are not even architects wrote letters saying the same thing, use similar language, proportion, low-lying, scale. It's not 2 stories, it's how the shifting plane utilizes the slope. Look at another thing that I did here. I can just imagine the original design trying to figure out these backyards with the sun angles. The sun angle is coming across this way. Well, look where all the pools are, utilizing that sun angle, and the house is protecting it. Now the house is in the way of the sun with the pool near the edge. This doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Way too big, inappropriate architecture, not following what our guidelines are, and we as board members have to follow this. We don't have any wiggle room. Now we have wiggle room when it comes to a little bit here and there, but it's so wrong, and it's a shame because it doesn't need to be this way. And then. And I'll just end it this way. And then when staff, who are trained professionals, who we rely upon for months, say this isn't going to work, it's not appropriate, and they recommend denying it, how are we going to approve it? So I'm sorry. Everyone deserves their dream home, but I can go on with the details, but this doesn't work.
Thank you, Mr. Insua. Mr. Yu?
Well said. I think a lot of the things that we're all thinking have been said and have been said very well. Just the disconnect between the garage and the massing of the house, and how it seems like the driveway sort of just determined where the garage was, and then the house was dropped wherever it could. It's not cited in a way that is specific to the site. I have difficulty with many of the things that were already said, and so I'm along the same lines. And we'll leave it at that.
Mr. Ellis?
I'd agree with my colleagues. The project is, as presented, is too big. It's too massive. I agree, I think, with your comment, Mr. Aliano, about these images working against him, because I had that same thought myself, but, those are not really design goals to get to. The other note is that all of those 2- and 3-story homes are hanging over the side, and we're talking about a flat pad building up off of it. I'd like to see a project comes back that's smaller, that is designed into the pad, as opposed to a beautiful house for maybe some other flat land someplace else.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Well, it seems as though the board has portrayed some strong objections to the design and the approach. And what I might suggest is the following. You have this beautiful lot, it's flat, and you have a pad that you could work with. And in order to get this board to approve a project, you might need to step back and to start from scratch with a clear head as far as what your approach is. And what I could suggest as a way for you to try to go through this process quickly is to listen to what's being said and try to see if you could change your expectations to meet within what is being said. Because if you were just unable to adjust your expectations, then this is going to be a very long and hard process for you. And so that is just some advice I say, and I mention this to try to help the applicant, because in order for you to come in front of this board again, it needs to be a different direction. And in order to get to that direction, you can't really take what you have here and try to modify it. It's going to be a waste of your time and money. So the best way to do it is to step back and see what's really important for you. There might be some opportunities where you actually carve into that hillside, where some of your square footage goes underneath, so it sinks into it, so you carve into it. But again, all those are very different. They're different typology of a building and a different approach. And so that is something I think for you to consider, because you're putting a lot of time, money, and efforts into this. And so without wasting more of that, you need to really maybe re-listen to this case later, a few days later, and try to see what's being said, some blatantly and not so blatantly with others. So with that, does somebody want to make
I'll move for redesign, return for redesign, with the conditions that staff has listed here. I don't know if anybody has, they seem to sum it up.
Should we hear what's been recorded?
Well, actually, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it sounds to me that the primary issue is going to be a total redesign and not a modification of the existing one. And it sounds like the design should be more sympathetic to the existing low-profile homes that are in the neighborhood. Because each of you gave rather generic comments as opposed to more specific ones, because you didn't feel that it worked that way.
Well, just a question for the board. In listening to you and in rereading the conditions that we placed, they may be consistent. So if it's okay with the board, I can read what we have to see if you're in agreement with that. Submit a design of one-story house or one that is lower in height and reduces the second floor roof and wall massing in order to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. 2, the house appears too massive and not in scale with the site and character of the neighborhood. 3, pull the house and garage back from the edges of the pad. The garage should be constructed on the pad and not project over it. And then 4, 5, 6, and 6 are regarding specific regarding landscaping, and 7 is asking for more specific details. I believe that the 1, 2, and 3 do speak to the general character of the discussion as we heard it. We've also taken lots of notes, but they seem very similar to what I just read.
I have a sentence which I think could be appropriate, which is on page 52 of our single-family neighborhood analysis and guidelines, and it reads, new infill homes, so on, let me just read, and you can paraphrase it. The primary impacts come from excessive mass and scale, and incorporation of inappropriate architectural styles such as Spanish colonial revival and postmodernist efforts. I would say that this falls into the category of I would say that these are what guidelines
architectural styles did not work in this neighborhood, and I believe that this architectural style is not consistent with this neighborhood that we've got, which is a ranch-type home. So I would include some sort of paraphrased language like that.
Okay, very good, we'll
So that
include
the
that.
architectural style is not compatible with this neighborhood? Okay, so the proposed architectural style,
How about we modify that to design in a style that is more appropriate with the neighborhood and utilize the design guidelines as a tool for the design of the project?
I was just wondering, though, if the board wants to make it more stronger.
Well, here's what it says in the next paragraph. The preservation of the architectural character of the neighborhood represents the primary concerns in creating design guidelines for the ranch home neighborhoods. That's on page 52.
If I may just say, I know that the general homes are the ranch style, and if we're going to go by guidelines, the applicant can make the comment that it's being a woodlands neighborhood, technically, it's the style. So
Why don't we, I think we've heard your comments, I think those are clear, and we'll come back to you with the record of decision, but I think we have
All
a
right.
clarity on what you're asking to include.
Very good. Oh, yes.
I think
okay.
I motioned it.
Yes, you made a motion, and I don't have a second.
Second?
So, Mr. Renshaw, had a second? Let me ask you this, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There are 7 conditions. Do you want the same 7 conditions, or you just want the first 3 with the addition of the one that Mr. Renshaw stated, or do you want to just add the 7 plus the new one?
I think we agreed to follow the staff comments and then to add Mr. Renshaw comment.
Good, that would be the
That's what the
7.
motion-
That would be the 7 that are listed here,
Right.
plus the 1.
Correct.
And I actually, in rereading the notes, we'd actually also like to include a comment or condition that the design of the home should work with the topography of the hills, the nature of the hillside neighborhood.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with
So it'll be 9 conditions. Okay, pretty good. All right, then we have a motion, and we have a second. Motion by Mr. Ellis, a second by Mr. Inswa, with conditions, 9 conditions. Roll call. Mr. Aliano? Mr. Aliano? Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Inswa?
Yes.
Mr. Yoop?
Yes.
And Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
So it'll be 5-0. Return for redesign with 9 conditions.
And I guess with that, we're saying good night to Mr. Aliano.
You're going to continue, you're going to take
Dinner's at 8.
And,
The last one.
And our next case is 1-PDR-2008-042-A, 3456 Buena Vista Avenue.
Good night, Mr. Aliano.
Lucky.
Yeah. I want to get a tape measure out. Let's measure this. There may be an issue where he may be at 503 feet. Because his house must be in this circle, in that circle someplace, right? Okay.
We're ready when you're ready.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next project before you with the case number PDR 2008-042A, located at 3456 Buena Vista Avenue, is basically addition of a new basement, a new second story, and addition to the first floor of an existing single-family one-story house. The zone is R1, and the basement basically mirrors the footprint of the first floor. The second story steps back on all sides and is approximately 70 feet from the street. Although a large portion of the landscaping will be removed, but it remains within the compliance with the code. The 30 feet existing setback, front setback remains, and also the detached garage at the back of the site will remain as is and will be maintained. The footprint of this house and addition will match the house to the north. And the house to the north is a two-story building. The house to the south is a one-story building. And the setback to the one-story house is larger. So that allows for a less impact on the one-story building. So on the whole, the building mass is located at the rear of the site in relation to the street, and that minimizes the impact on the street. It's approximately, as I mentioned before, 70 feet from the street front setback. The existing building, although one story, but due to the high ridge and roof line, seems taller than an average one-story building. The proposed building will be 22, the proposed addition will be 22 feet, which will increase the overall height of the building by 3 feet. Overall, the impact of the proposed addition on the street is minimal, since the bulk of the addition is at the rear of the site, and it's 70 feet from the street. Building will be taller on the whole by 3 feet. The street front the street front elevation remains as it is. The only difference would be the visible part of the second story, which is proposed. As you can see, this is the front elevation. This is the part of the second story. This is the rear, which shows the addition. This side, which shows the existing house and the addition. And also the other side, which has the existing house and the addition. The photos are here if you would like. Staff recommends approval of the project, and should the board approve the project, I will go over the language of draft record of the decision. And this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for staff? Thank you. Thank you. The architect, Mike Grigos.
Good evening, Mike Garrigus, 3501 Buena Vista, Glendale. It's always fun to work in your, just a few steps away. Makes meetings much easier. What we have is a modest home that's in my neighborhood. As many of you know, Spar Heights, very small lots, small homes, and the trick is really to add on to the house without much impact. And it's difficult to do when properties are close together like they are in Spar Heights. What we tried to do, and what I like to do, is really either make it look like it was always a two-story, or totally minimize the impact of it as much as possible. And in the latter case, I usually try to do what's called story and a half, and this is even probably story and a quarter, not even story and a half. So with just a slight increase in the ridge height, we were able to do a very modest bedroom upstairs, which is technically has the big word of master suite, but wouldn't compete to most master suites. But we're trying to keep consistent with all the materials, and the shed dormer in the back is set in on both sides, such that when you see it on the perspective, or if you went out and saw the story poles, by bringing in that shed dormer, there really isn't. You don't even notice the shed dormer really from the street facade. I have the neighbor to the north here who wants to speak also in favor, and we have a letter from the neighbor to the south that's also in favor. Just a couple other comments. I know we're close to what would be considered the larger of the homes on the area, but it's good to keep in mind that the over half of that is in the basement, or very nearly half of that is in the basement, which has no impact to the massing of this building at all. And you took 500 feet off that, you'd be around 2,000 feet, which puts you very much in the middle range of homes in the area. As I said, the ridge is only 3 feet higher than the existing, and I think a gable end like that could be considered normal almost for a single-story home for this area. A couple things on the windows. I think in keeping with sort of Yankee frugality at the time in the 20s, they only did the marginal lights on the front and on that side where they have a larger setback. The side is really, they also use it as a nice backyard also. There is a wide setback on the side. So that is a gathering place in addition to the backyard. So they've done the marginal windows on the front and side elevation, south side elevation. On the two other elevations, they did single light, single hung. And that is what we're proposing to continue, is that same idea. One thing that happened ultimately, the chimney that we're proposing to put back on the front elevation, we're asking that it not be included in this proposal. We're going to leave it as is, so the chimney won't be part of this proposal. And if you have any other questions?
Is there an existing fireplace there that's lost its chimney?
It actually lost its chimney many years ago. It was roofed over, and it looks pretty inside, some nice batch shelter tile, and that is how it will stay going forward.
Very good. Do we have any other questions for the architect? Thank you, Mr. Burgos. The next speaker is Joe Racanelli.
How are you?
Good.
My name is Joe Racanelli, and I live at 3456 Buena Vista, the house right next door on the north side. I think the design's wonderful. The story poles were up. My wife and I and all our kids looked at it and just thought it was fantastic. It's not really doing anything. I personally have a 2-story, so I think it's great, and I hope it all goes well for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have no other speaker cards for this case, and as was mentioned earlier, we do have a letter from Rita Even. That's part of the record as well. And so with that, I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing, and this time we can start with Mr. Insua.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Nice job. Moving on.
I guess saying less is more in this case, right?
Less is more.
Mr. Ellis?
Yeah, and I actually, I thought he did a nice job, too. I was concerned a little bit about the windows, but you've explained on the windows. But yeah, I'm ready to support the project.
Mr. Yu?
No, I think the project's well done. The scale of the dormer kind of threw me off a little bit. The shed dormer looked pretty huge in the back. It is in the back, so it doesn't concern me as much. So the basement has an entry from the inside as well as from the outside? Okay.
We can't have cross conversations because it's being recorded, as you know. He's talking like an attorney, you know, just wonder why. Maybe it runs in the family. How do you think?
Okay, but all in all, I'm good with the project, so.
Well, I concur with everyone. It's well done, it's well designed. You were able to get the square footage that you wanted to achieve or the client wanted to achieve, and you did it in a way that really doesn't disturb the neighborhood or the fabric or the context of the neighborhood. And so it was just fitted in there, and you used some basement space and you used some second or 1 1/4 level space as you've described it to achieve your goals. So in a way, you've really minimized any kind of an impact to the surrounding area, and that's really the intent of this board is to look at compatibility in that manner. So I could support the project in its current state as well.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as submitted.
So, Mr. Insua, I motion to approve the, is there a second?
I'll second.
You second it? This is, would you like me to read the language of draft record before I?
Very quickly, yes.
Overall, the site plan is well conceived. The footprint of the proposed house matches the adjacent property to the north while maintaining the existing street front setback. The site plan fits well within the context of the neighborhood, a majority of which have detached garages at the rear with a relatively consistent street front setback. Overall, the impact of the proposed addition on the street is minimal since the bulk of the addition is located at the rear of the site and will be approximately 70 feet from the street. The second-story addition increases the height of the building by 3 feet. The project relates well to the mass and scale of the adjacent buildings and is therefore appropriate to the surrounding context. Overall, the style of the proposed building fits well within the neighborhood. The presence of some design elements of the neighboring homes, such as the roof line, slope of the roof, deeply set arch entrance door, window details, and roofing materials in the subject house provide for a building which fits in with the neighborhood. So this is a roll call. Board Member Ellis?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Motion passes by 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. And
That's close.
the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the assessment panel dated August 7, 2008, which is what's written on the agenda.
Is it here in this orange pack?
Excuse me, can I just clarify a point? Mr. Gregos asked for the chimney to be excluded. Is that approved, that the chimney as shown not be there and be eliminated?
Just so it is on the record that it's not included that at all.
We can't have cross.
I was just going to say, and you know,
We'll reopen, I guess we have to reopen this case to make it part of
Yes.
the decision, so we're reopening
Mr. Griegos.
very quickly, 1-PDR-2008-042-A, 3456 Buena Vista Avenue. Architect has asked staff to mention whether it'd be okay to eliminate the chimney as presented on the elevations.
Correct.
And the architect did mention that fact during the presentation.
You did.
And so I don't really see any objections to that. And so we could make that part of the record, part of the conditions, that it's, the board understands that the final outcome is going to be a design that does not include the chimney, as illustrated on the elevations.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll close that case again, and we'll move on, as I had indicated, to agenda item number 5, which is the assessment panel dated August 7, 2008.
I'll move acceptance of the minutes for the AAP on August 7th.
I have a motion by Board Member Ellis,
Second.
Board Member Insua, and Board Member Yu was not present at the AAP, so it would be just Board Member Ellis,
Aye.
Board Member Insua,
Yes.
and Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. And it would also be the minutes from September the 4th, and Board Member Simonian was not present. Board Member Ellis, Aliana.
Move acceptance of the minutes for September 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. A second?
I don't think, was I here?
Yes, you were.
Then I'll second it.
Good to know. All right.
I was wondering the same thing. I was like,
Yes, Board Member Ellis,
Yes.
Board Member Insua.
Yes.
Board Member Yu.
yes.
Motion passes 3-0. And there are no staff announcements. With that said, Board Member Simonian, would you like to close the meeting?
That's right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
At 8:12. Thank you very much.
Adjourn.
Good job.